Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Welcome to another edition of Front and Center, where we put very significant issues affecting our country, the Philippines, as our program title says, Front and Center. On behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, I'm your host for today, Steph Vicente, joining you all for a 30-minute worth of talk discussing important matters with our government officials, people from the private sector, or even members of the academe. As seen through our video live streaming, you may watch and listen to Front and Center through our Facebook page. Just search Radyo Pilipinas World Service. The same goes for our YouTube channel. Meanwhile, we also have an audio live streaming thanks to the Evox PBS Receiver app. You may download the said app via Google Play Store if you are using an Android phone or via App Store if you are using an iPhone. Once you have entered the Evox PBS Receiver app, just find the logo of Radyo Pilipinas World Service in order for you to be able to listen live to our programs such as Front and Center. For today's edition of our program, we are going to talk about the key findings from the Tugon ng Masa or TNM survey, which focused on the public opinion towards the so-called flood control fiasco here in the Philippines, which found that most Filipinos were angry and outraged over issues of corruption in government infrastructure projects. It is noted that the results of the September 25 to 30 Tugon ng Masa survey, which was released yesterday, showed that 60% of the respondents selected anger or outrage as the primary emotion that best described their reaction to the issue. To know more about the latest Tugon ng Masa survey results, we are now joined by Octa Research Group President, Professor Ranjit Rai. Professor Rai, welcome to Front and Center. This is Steph Vicente of Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Thank you, Steph. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers all around the world.
Thank you again, Professor Rai, for gracing our program. First of all, just for the knowledge of our listeners, how did Octa Research conducted this latest Tugon ng Masa survey?
Okay, so good morning to everyone. Octa Research conducted its third quarter 2025 national probe. For everybody's information, Octa Research is a non-profit, non-partisan polling organization, and we do quarterly studies on a range of topics that are important to the everyday life of our country. And one of the important issues we wanted to probe or to study was really the issue of corruption. So for context, this was a survey conducted in from September 25 to September 30, 2025. It has a margin of error of plus minus 3%. And the total number of respondents nationally was around 1,200 respondents. So this is a very robust survey and very recent survey also. Number three, when we conceptualize the questions here, we were looking at corruption in the first or second week of September. And so during that time, just for context again, we did not have an ICI yet. We did not have an ombudsman. And of course, the ongoing investigation into flood control projects were just really starting. And it was the conduct of the survey also covers the period when we had a massive September 2021 rally, no? Not just commemorating martial law, the declaration, but also really protesting, no? The systemic corruption in DPWH. So here are the findings. So there are four basic findings of our survey. Number one, strong public support for President Marcos's anti-corruption drive, in a sense, no? So what were the key findings? 83% of adult Filipinos agree with the President Marcos's decision to publicly expose corruption in government infrastructure projects, even if it carries political risks for him, no? Support was highest in the National Capital Region at 91%, Balance Luzon 90%. Only 33% of our kababayans disagree, while 13% remain ambivalent. While this particular insight may be, trivial and commonplace, it's important, no, that social scientists measure public sentiment. And so there's very strong support for the president's anti-corruption initiative, okay, which is not surprising because anybody who tells the truth about this issue will be supported. So, but then again, it's a preface to a series of questions. So people don't think this is a trivial study. It's actually very important because we're now looking at how people feel about corruption. And the second one, the second finding focuses, after setting the agenda or the context for a series of questions, we started probing how people felt about corruption in general. Because before this study, we didn't have data on corruption, extensive data on corruption. Okay, so when we asked the basic question, how did you feel, no, about the expose on the flood control, corruption and flood control projects? So the number one feeling for most of our kababayans, 60% of our kababayans feel anger or outrage when thinking about corruption in government projects, such as those outlined or exposed, no, specifically for flood control. That's anger and outrage for 60%. 30% expressed fear and anxiety, while 9% feel sadness and disappointment. This indicating, frustration over these recurring stories about corruption in government. And around 1% felt optimism. So this basically is the range of emotions felt by our kababayans on this issue. Is this important? I think it's very important because every time you get data about how our kababayans think about a range of issues, you have important information that can be useful for planning. It can be useful for designing programs, whether you're in the government or a non-governmental organization. And for knowledge sake, it's important for us to measure what public sentiment is on a range of issues, because we want to know who we are as a people, how we think about a range of issues, and where we want to go as a community. So, Steph, this is important data because it's the first time we're measuring it. And when we measure it, we're measuring at a very important juncture. This anti-corruption expose of the president has become a movement already, because it's been a few weeks since we conducted the survey. Now it's much bigger than the expose of the president. We've had a series of rallies already, and the public is really active. There's a renewed sense of activism as far as the public is concerned on this issue. So when we dig deeper, so the first finding, we found out people support the initiative of the president. Number two, there's public outrage, and there's a great demand for accountability and justice. Okay. Now, when you look at that second finding, when you look at the age group distribution of the 60% who are angry and outraged, a big chunk of those are really millennials and Gen Zs. So when you look at millennials and Gen Zs, they comprise a big chunk of our own voting population. So they're the ones showing the strongest outrage. Why? Because when you look at their numbers, they're above 60%. They're above the national average. So more of them are feel strongly about this issue. Okay. And in a sense, given that there's such a big chunk of our voting population, our adult population also, it indicates that our young Filipinos are not just critical of corruption. Okay, they're the ones driving the movement now. So when you look at the rallies, you're also surprised. Ang daming mga bata, no? There are lots of young people who are engaged in it, no? And what the survey is also showing is that not only are they engaged, they're yearning for some sort of decisive action with regards to accountability, to justice. to setting up a reform agenda to improve governance in general. Third finding, because when we will conceptualize the survey, we didn't have an ICI. So we want to ask, who should be leading the investigation? Should it be Congress or should it be some independent commission? So what has come out is that 46% of Filipinos prefer an independent commission composed of credible private sector individuals, such as the ICI, to lead the flood control investigation. Only 23% prefer the Senate to lead the investigation, and 13% for the House of Representatives, reflecting, in a sense, a limited public confidence in these political institutions, and rightly so, because some of the members are implicated, as being part of these corruption scandals. So I think in the minds of our kababayans, you need to have an independent body because you cannot ensure, that you will have a fair and balanced investigation, both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. The support for the Independent Commission on Infrastructure is strongest in the National Capital Region. Okay, and in a sense, this shows that Filipinos want a non-political oversight mechanism, such as the ICI, to take the lead. Of course, now the big question about the ICI is how open are the investigations, to media and to our kababayans. I think our kababayans want a more open ICI investigation. Number 4, and I think this is very important, finding. We know that people are angry. I mean, some people argue you don't really need to have a survey for that, but I think we argue, of course, on the opposite side. You need to find out, how many are angry, who are angry. We know that now. The next question, or the fourth question, is what are the expectations of those who are angry about corruption or the corruption investigation? So what are the desired outcomes from the investigation? So there were a plethora or a large number of expectations, so that we just narrowed it down to the top 5. The first finding is that, number 1, we should hold corrupt officials and contractors accountable. Pananagutan, that's 68%. However that means for our kababayans. Okay. Number 2, expectations, recover lost or misused public funds. That's 58%. Number 3, imprisonment of those who are proven guilty. So they tied, these two expectations are 58%. Number 4 is efficient, or ensure efficient implementation of, well-built quality flood control projects. That's 41%. And lastly, strengthen transparency and monitoring of government infrastructure projects. That's 34%. So again, the top 5 are to hold corrupt officials and contractors accountable. That's 68%. Number 2, recover lost and misused public funds. Number 3, imprison those who are guilty. Number 4, efficient implementation of flood control projects. Number 5, strengthen transparency and monitoring of government infrastructure. So these results, Steph, signal a clear, non-compromising public mandate for justice, accountability, and institutional reform. So anybody looking at the survey shows that, our kababayans are not just angry, they want some sort of reform agenda implemented. They want some sort of decisive action. But their top 3 expectations are really focused on accountability. They want people imprisoned. They want the money that's stolen returned back to them. And third, that this accountability mechanism should be institutionalized. So I think the overall message is that Filipinos are sending a strong signal of zero tolerance for corruption. The public supports the president's decision to confront wrongdoing, but they expect swift, transparent, and credible action, including the punishment of offenders, the recovery of public funds, and reforms to ensure clean, efficient, and trustworthy government. So I think that's the sum of our report, and hopefully it has some value for kababayans and also for people who want to take part in or be part of this growing movement for change in government.
Thank you for that, Professor Rai. I would just like to go back to the age bracket of those who gave their reactions or expressed how they felt
Yes,
about the investigations on the corruption behind the anomalous flood control projects. You have mentioned, of course, as we all know, I think this is a common knowledge in the Philippines that the youth are really considered the drivers, no, when it comes to movements against corruption or against any anomaly in the government. I was just wondering, how about the other age brackets, most especially our elderly? Do you have findings or data on the other brackets?
yeah, yes, of course. At 60%, obviously, almost all age brackets will have, above or within the average, no, of at least 50% per age group. But it's slightly higher for millennials and Gen Z. They're close to 70%. Okay, and if there's one age bracket that is slightly lower than the national average of 60%, that would be those age 60 and beyond. In the age bracket, that's around they're less than 60%, but still significant. So almost all age brackets, almost all regions, okay, and classes are they're united in their anger against corruption. So again, these are the findings.
Also, how about the other demographics? Of course, do you have any among the Filipino males and females for this particular survey, or just the age bracket and the regions where there is the highest number of those who are agreeing, most especially to the first finding, where people tend to express support to the anti-corruption drive of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. It seems that our connection has been interrupted. We just have technical issue. Is Professor Rai there? Okay, we will just have a short break, and when we return, we will try to reestablish our connection with Professor Rai.
Magandang araw, si Dingdong Dantes po ito. Dahil taon-taon tayong binibisita ng bagyo, kailangang handa tayong harapin ito. Naalala ko si Mami, meron siyang isang envelope kung saan nakatago ang mga importanteng dokumento para madaling kunin at dalhin kapag may bagyo. Ang misis ko naman, may nakahanda palaging emergency go bag na may lamang damit, gamot, pagkain, tubig at pera na kasya hanggang 3 araw sakaling kailanganin namin pumunta sa evacuation center. At syempre, ang toka ko, bago pa dumating ang bagyo, sinisilip ko na kung may mga butas ba yung bubong o ang ibang parte ng bahay na kailangang i-repair. Nakamonitor din ako sa updates ng Pag-asa tungkol sa bagyo. May kanya-kanyang responsibilidad sa bahay para sure na ligtas ang buhay. Dahil #panatag ang may alam.
Maging panatag Pilipinas.
Now we're back. And now we're back in the program of Front and Center, and again we are being joined by Okta Research President Professor Ranjit Rai, but he's via Viber instead of Zoom. Professor Rai, I will just repeat the question earlier. Do you have any data based on the latest Tugon ng Masa survey in regards to the other demographics, particularly the proportion between the Filipino males and females, aside from what you have mentioned, like the age bracket and the regions where, especially for the first finding, where there are most support to the anti-corruption drive of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.?
Okay, so I think sum it all, no, to sum it up, is that the anger felt by 60% of the population is broad-based. So all age brackets, no, and the demographics are more or less equal, no. What's important for our listeners is that the anger is not just broad-based; it's led by younger Filipinos. Okay, with an overall rate of anger, if we can call it, no, it's around 60%. So, but when you look at millennials, the numbers are slightly higher. They're above the average of 60%, 64. Percent in particular for the millennials. Okay, so these age groups are slightly more outraged, no, than the national average, no, and while the older cohorts, those above 60 years old, slightly lower, no. So what it actually means is that the youth are demanding. The youth are the demand engine for accountability as far as this issue is concerned. So, to those observing it, you'll notice that there's stronger support among millennials and Gen Zs for actions like prosecution, fund recovery, independent probes, no? So, moving forward, as I was saying earlier, this is a movement that can, if there's really an agenda for reform that will be implemented, can actually bring about change because you have already a driver. Yes. You already have strong support for it. What's problematic is if nothing actually happens. Then you have a deepening political crisis because people will distrust government. And the drivers for distrust will be a big chunk of your voting population, millennials and Gen Zs. And so this could be both a constructive coalition for reform, but can also be very destructive if they're disappointed. So government has to respond. Government has to respond. We all as a country have to come together, and what seems to also be clear, number two, is that when people are involved, when more and more people are informed, yes, and compelled to act, the government listens. Reforms do start and get done. So two things: government has to respond. If it doesn't respond, the crisis will continue and even broaden and deepen. But the second thing is that this challenge that the president has started, which is to cleanse government of these types of corruption, will require a whole of nation approach, meaning all of us have to take part.
Yes. All
of us have to end this idea that we're individuals, that we're just angry, and start thinking, how can we contribute to the solution? And the movement is already started. And it's being led by the younger segment of our population, which is good because they're politically engaged now. Okay, and you didn't see this kind of activism 6 months before. No, well, you saw it maybe during the election to some extent, directed at individuals. No, but now this is a very important issue. It's a continuing challenge in Philippine governance, in corruption. And now you have a politically engaged population, 60% of whom want something to happen and will likely support any reform agenda constituted or defined by government. So there has to be some sort of concrete step that have to happen. If nothing happens, if people don't get in jail, no cases are filed, there's no recovery of wealth, you can there's no accountability for those who are involved, no? Okay? people will begin to distrust government even more. And when you distrust government, large portions of your population distrust government, it will impact on legitimacy. Okay? And legitimacy will undermine government stability if less and less legitimacy is realized. No? See, legitimacy is not just because you won an election. Performance legitimacy, no? Process legitimacy. There's performance legitimacy. Are you able to respond to the demands of the public? And the demand of the public today is accountability. The demand of the public today is reform. The demand of the public today is justice. Okay? And so if the government is unable to do that, not only will it disappoint, distrust will go high. And if it's high enough, people will, the legitimacy of government will go down, and support for it will go down. So we don't want that to happen. Government should take this situation. They have the data. They should take this situation seriously.
Okay. And as we are running out of material time, what would just be, Professor Rai, what would just be your final message to our listeners and viewers of Front and Center, particularly now that you have released this latest Tugon ng Masa survey results?
Well, I think the overall message is that Filipinos are sending a strong signal of zero tolerance for corruption. The public indeed supports the President's decision to confront wrongdoing and but they expect something to happen. Okay? And they're very clear about what their expectations are. They expect swift, transparent, and credible action. And this includes the punishment of offenders, the recovery of public funds, and the reform, institutional reform in DPWH, in government in general, to ensure that corruption is managed, or corruption is it goes down to zero, and that clean and efficient and trustworthy government is realized, especially in the implementation of infrastructure projects. So galit ang tao sa corruption, but they want the reform agenda realized. So hindi lang siya galit, they have expectations, and we hope that government will respond.
Okay. Thank you very much again, Professor Rai, for joining us here in the program. Sa uulitin po, until next time, God bless and mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you.
And we were just joined by Octa Research Group President, Professor Ranjit Rai. We will be right back after a few reminders from our station.
Paano nga ba mag-register para magkaroon ng schedule sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center? Narito ang mga dapat gawin. Gamit ang iyong mobile device, pumunta sa eGovPH app. Pwede itong i-download mula sa Apple App Store o sa Google Play Store. Gumawa ng account. Ilagay ang email address, valid mobile number, pagkatapos ay makakatanggap ka ng one-time code sa iyong email. Gamitin ang code sa eGov app para sa verification ng iyong account at ng mga impormasyong ibinigay. Congratulations! Meron ka ng eGovPH app account. Pwede mo na ma-access ang iba't ibang serbisyo ng gobyerno kabilang ang mga serbisyo sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center.
Kapag napinsala ng bagyo, normal lang na panghinaan ng loob o malungkot. Ang mahalaga, ready tayong bumangon. Ikaw pa, Enoy Pica. Kaya pagligtas ng bumalik sa bahay pagkatapos ng bagyo, i-check agad kung may nasira dito. Make sure na hindi basa ang mga outlet ng kuryente bago buksan ang main switch. Kung may nakita namang sira sa mga kable ng kuryente, i-report agad sa otoridad. Itapon din ang mga naipong tubig ulan para hindi ito pamahayan ng lamok. Babangon ka, di ba? Pabangon. Ikaw pa. #panatag ang may alam.
Maging
Back here in Front and Center, and for our second interview for today's edition, we will be joined right now by Ms. Criselda Longa, Manager of the Disaster Management Services of the Philippine Red Cross National Headquarters. This is about the assistance being given to our kababayans affected by the magnitude 6.9 earthquake in Cebu and the doublet earthquakes in Davao Oriental. Ms. Longa, welcome po sa Front and Center. This is Steph Vicente po ng Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Hello po, good morning po sa lahat po ng nakikinig sa Radyo Pilipinas. Good morning po.
Yes po. It seems na our technical team is requesting for you to okay na po pala. So, eto na po yung una po naming katanungan. Ano-ano na po ang assistance na naibibigay ng Red Cross sa mga apektado ng mga nagdaang lindol, partikular sa Cebu at Davao Oriental?
Ayan po, no. So, ang ating operation po sa Philippine Red Cross ay tuloy-tuloy, specifically sa Cebu, Davao Oriental at Surigao del Sur din po, no? Kasi meron din po tayo earthquake sa Surigao del Sur. So, sa Cebu earthquake po, no, nandun pa rin po tayo sa Bogo, San Remigio, Medellin, Daan, Bantayan, kung saan nagsusupport po pa rin tayo sa pagbibigay ng tubig, sa mga tent, sa mga families na naninirahan sa tent, nagbibigay po tayo ng relief, hot meals, psychosocial support, and child-friendly activities po, no, para sa mga kabataan. And of course, hindi po rin po tayo nawawala sa Cebu Provincial Hospital, sa Bogo. Nandun pa rin po yung mga medical tents po natin, nagsusupport sa mga pasyente. Aside from that, sa Davao Oriental, specifically po in Manay and Manay tsaka isang munisipyo po, no, sa Davao Oriental, nagbibigay po tayo ng assistance doon, specifically sa water din po dahil nawalan din po sila ng tubig, at meron din po tayong mga hospital tent sa Samati City sa Davao Oriental Medical Center kasi po marami pa rin pong pasyente ang nag-evacuate due to the earthquake po, no. Yung sa Tarragona naman po, meron po tayong mga site for tent city doon po dahil magkakaroon din po tayo ng mga family tent installation sa Tarragona at Manay area. And then as nasabi ko rin po, nandun din po tayo sa Surigao del Sur kasi nga nagka-earthquake po doon.
Yes.
May medical tent po tayo sa Adela Hospital kasi minamanage din po natin yung mga pasyente na nag-evacuate. Yun lang po sa ngayon. Thank you.
Miss Criselda, meron po ba kayong mga datos kung ilan po ang natulungan na po, no, ng Philippine Red Cross so far dun sa mga naapektuhan ng lindol? Kung meron po, ilang pamilya o individual po?
In terms naman po ng na-assist ng Philippine Red Cross, no, sa family tents po ng Philippine Red Cross, more than 180 families na po yung na-cater po natin sa camp, no? Sa Bogot Tent City, meron po tayo 126 families. Sa Medellin Tent City, meron po tayong 63 families na naninirahan doon. And then of course, in terms naman po ng accomplishment ng Red Cross, in terms of water, no, may 5 po tayong water tanker sa Bogo or Cebu kung saan nakapagbigay na po tayo ng more than 404,000 liters of water. And then sa welfare po, no, meron po tayong 4 food truck po sa Bogo kung saan nakapagbigay na rin po tayo ng more than 8,000 na hot meals sa iba't ibang munisipyo or barangay sa Bogo. And then patuloy tayo rin po yung sa hospital kung saan kinikater po natin yung 154 patient, no, in medical tents na mga na-install natin sa hospital sa Bogo at yung mga hospital or health station natin sa Medellin at dun sa camp area natin. So yun po yung initial na information po natin in terms of statistic, but nevertheless, marami na po talagang naputulungan si Red Cross in terms of relief, tent, water, and other interventions.
Ma'am, matanong ko lang po, no, dun sa mga lugar po na apektado ng lindol, ano po yung karaniwan nyo po na natatanggap na ulat sa kung ano yung pinakakinakailangan po, no, ng mga naapektuhan?
Yan, no. So kung mapapansin nyo po, no, yung sa Cebu po, no, kung i-share ko lang, nung isang araw po, no, nagkaroon ulit ng aftershock. Ay, hindi nga po aftershock yun eh. Talagang earthquake din na medyo malakas, 6 magnitude 0.6. Kung saan yung mga tao nag-evacuate again sa kanilang mga bahay at tumira again sa labas ng bahay nila kasi takot pa rin talaga sila na magstay at matulog sa bahay nila. That's why ang mga pangunahing pangailangan pa rin is yung, of course, yung mga temporary shelter na pwedeng tulugan ng mga family lalo pag nagkakaganyan, nagkaka-earthquake or aftershock. And of course, dahil nga sira po o yung kuryente pa, hindi pa fully restored, pag wala pong kuryente, nawawalan din po ng tubig kasi reliant po ang mga tubig natin or yung mga pump nila sa kuryente. That's why hindi rin po accessible yung tubig o mga potable water nila. So that's why priority pa rin po ang tubig, no. And then of course, dahil nga po yung iba hindi pa nakakapagtrabaho, hindi pa nakakabalik sa pangingisda and others, may mga need pa rin po talaga sa pagkain. That's why we are recommending na meron pa rin po mga provision of food sa ating mga community. And then of course, continuous pa rin po yung mga medical assistance po natin sa ating mga hospital.
Bale po, ito pong mga tinutukoy niyo po na pangailangan is combined na po yung sa Cebu, Davao Oriental, and Surigao del Sur, tama po?
Yes po. Tama ka dyan, ma'am.
Okay. Ito naman po, kumusta naman po yung coordination nyo po, no, with the national government agencies and the local government units po pagdating sa pag-aabot ng tulong para sa ating mga kababayan na naapektuhan ng lindol?
So, ang Philippine Red Cross naman po, no, may direct and coordinated response in different government agencies, yung mga national, yung mga DSWD, DPWH, DSUD, and of course, DILG po, no, in terms of coordination with the local government. And of course, sa mga munisipyo or sa province, may direct coordination din po tayo kay governor, sa mga mayor, para coordinated po yung ating mga pagpaplano and pag-i-implement ng mga activities. This will ensure that we have a collaborative implementation of our activities and to ensure na rin na walang mga duplication or ma-address din yung mga gap in terms of response. So yun dapat yung ini-ensure po natin, no, as part of our National Disaster Reduction Management Council, and then of course as part of our commitment to support the local government.
Ito na lamang po, ano-ano na lamang po ang inyong paalala sa ating mga kababayan na apektado ng mga sakuna, partikular po, no, ang mga katulad po ng lindol, no, ano po yung mga pwede po nilang gawin, syempre, no, in case of emergencies na tulad po nito.
Ayan. So siguro, I think nakikita nyo na sa lahat ng social media post, no, na dapat talaga ang bawat pamilya, bawat individual ay ready for any possible emergency or evacuation. So, inaanyayahan po namin ang lahat ng pamilya na mag-ready ng inyong kanyang go bag. Nandun po ang inyong first basic needs po, no? Andun po ang mga tubig, ready to eat food, ang inyong mga medicines, inyong mga immediate na pangailangan. Nandun din po dapat yung mga importanteng dokumento, and then yung ating mga hygiene items para pag nag-evacuate po tayo, meron po tayong magagamit initially while waiting para sa mga response from our government and others. And of course, ini-ensure din po natin, no, sa bawat school, bawat kumpanya, meron po tayong hard hat na available para pag nagkaroon ng earthquake at mag-evacuate tayo, protected po yung ating mga ulo to prevent injuries din po, no. So yun po yung mga una po pong mga advice. But of course, as of the moment po, no, as part of readiness din sa ating mga kabahayan, sa ating mga opisina, ensure po natin na yung mga aparador, yung mga mabibigat na gamit na nakataas, ibaba po natin yun, yung mga aparador, itali po natin ng mabuti, yung mga television, appliances na mabibigat, iwasan po natin na ilagay siya sa matataas na lugar to prevent po na magkaroon po, pag nagkaroon ng earthquake, baka po mabagsakan po tayo doon. And of course, ini-ensure din po natin na dapat ang bawat individual ay alam po ang gagawin pag nagkaroon na ng earthquake. Yung magdadrop po tayo, bababa po tayo sa heg. Of course, hahanap po tayo ng lamesa na pwede pong pang-cover sa atin. And of course, pag tumigil na yung paggalaw ng kalupaan o earthquake, mag-i-evacuate po tayo ng malumaanay. So yun po yung ating ini-ensure na dapat tayo as an individual, ready po tayo pag nagkaroon po ng sitwasyon. Kasi ang earthquake po ngayon, no, hindi na lang po sa isang lugar o dalawa. Sabay-sabay na po minsan, no, nagkaroon ng earthquake sa Baguio, nagkaroon ng earthquake sa Zambales o kaya sa Pampanga, sa Visayas. Hindi po natin alam kung kailan po magkakaroon ng earthquake. And of course, ini-ensure po natin na dapat po lahat ng pamilya ay nakikilahok sa mga simulation exercise or earthquake drill po, no? Kasi it will enhance our skills and knowledge paano ba tayo kikilos pag nagkaroon ng earthquake. So yan po ay tinatawag po naming practice. Dapat po aware po tayo paano pag nagka-earthquake, saan tayo pupunta, anong gagawin po natin.
And with that po, maraming salamat po, Ma'am Criselda, for joining us dito po sa Front and Center. Sa ulitin po, mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you, ma'am. Ingat po ang lahat.
And we were just joined by Ms. Criselda Longa, who is the manager of the Disaster Management Services of the Philippine Red Cross National Headquarters. At this point, we will be ending today's edition of Front and Center. We would like to thank first our technical staff, composed of Milo Jonella, Susan Aison, Hiro Lucero, and Justin Osias, who made this program possible. Thank you as well to our station manager, Mr. Ray Sampang. Until the next episode of Front and Center, on behalf of Jerome Toledo, this has been your host, Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.